action. It's initiated by the members. It is done by the members. And so this is not a function of the fair itself. That said, I am, as the secretary, am facilitating the action. I'm doing all the work that we need to do within the fair to get ballots to people, to arrange meetings, to get the votes tallied. And to date, we have not had a mechanism for members to give input into the action. Because it is a member action and not a fair action, the fair will not be publishing any information directly about this action. But I'd like to announce that we do have a mechanism as of today for the members to give input. We have set up an online forum website where members can register. This is for registered fair members only. They can register and they can make posts. They can put information on there. They can ask questions and respond to other people's posts. We sent an email out to the membership, all members for whom we have email addresses this afternoon. So membership should have links to that email by now. If you didn't get the email, you can always go to the .net site and click on the elections link, and that will take you to an elections page, which will have a link to sign up for the forum. Between now and Thursday of this week, we are pre-registering members. There's quite a few people are interested, and we have to validate every member, make sure that they are a registered member before we allow them to post. So the forums are closed for posting until Thursday, but at 8 p.m. Thursday night, the forum will be open, and the petitioners, the director whose recall is being asked for, and any other members can post any information they want. They cannot post documents directly to the site because we don't have software to scan for viruses, but they can copy and paste documents into a forum post that they can link to an external website. They can do whatever they need to do to get information to people. So I'm really happy that we're finally able to start getting information out about this process. And I hope that any member who's interested in it will join the forum and we'll start discussing that. There will also be an informational meeting on the 21st of this month, and that will be a Zoom meeting that will be live streamed to YouTube. The petitioners and the director will have an opportunity to make statements. Members will be able to ask questions, and there will be an opportunity to answer those questions at that meeting. So we have a couple of ways for people to get information at this point. The other things I'll say are pretty much mechanical. The international ballots were mailed today because they take 2 to 3 weeks to get to their destination. The remainder of the ballots will be mailed on the 19th. The meeting's on the 21st. Anybody who does not receive their ballot and thinks they're a registered member should contact elections on or after January 31st so that we can get your address updated, get your replacement ballot if needed. Ballots are due on February 18th at 8 p.m. Postmarks do not count. We must have them physically in hand by that date. You can deliver them in person to the office up until 8 p.m. on the 18th. And then on the 19th of February, we will count the ballots and we will tally the results and post them. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I don't see any other hands. Are there any other announcements? All right, I will move on. The next topic here is approval of the minutes. No? Sorry. Okay. Approval of the minutes from last meeting. Are there any adjustments, any corrections?
I move that we approve the minutes from December.
Okay, AJ moves to approve.
I'll second.
Oh, got me, Tom.
Tom seconds. Okay, I'll go down my list here and ask for yays or nays. Sandra,
Yes, approve.
Ann,
Yes.
thank you. Arna,
Yes.
all right. John Alexander,
Approve.
George,
Approve.
Paxton,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
and Lisa.
Yes.
All right, and I'm correct. John Silvermoon's not here, right?
Correct.
Al,
Thanks.
if we could ask everybody who is not a board member, officer, or employee staff to turn off their cameras. When you are called on, you may turn your camera on, but please mute and turn off your camera if you are not a board member, officer, or staff member. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It will help me keep track of everything that's going on here. So I appreciate that. All right, the minutes are approved. And the next topic is the agenda to review, amend, or approve. And approve. So are there any adjustments, amendments that need to be made? There is a hand from Hillary.
Yeah, just to remind people that the new business item, the revenue projection, it's not for the February meeting, it's for the January 30th
30th.
meeting, the budget, the board budget meeting.
All right. No amendments. We move to approve this agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda for tonight.
Thank you, AJ.
I'll second.
Thank you, Arna. And I'll just go. Is there anybody who has any issues with approving this? Feel free to raise your hand or put your hand in the chat. Seeing no hands, I will call this agenda approved. Next up is membership comments. Remember, you are all limited to 2 minutes, and we do not discuss personnel issues here. So please bear that in mind. As we proceed, I will be tracking time here. I'll put it up for everyone to see. And the first hand I see is from John. Oh, never mind. That hand has gone down. Are there, there is a hand. Okay, here we go. Jonathan Pincus, you are up first.
Thank you. I just had a question. I noticed on the notification of the, I guess the removal measure, that it stated that we'll have an informational meeting. My recollection of the bylaws is that they require a special meeting of the membership. Is that going to occur? Thank you.
Thank you. The next hand is Peaches.
Interesting.
Peaches?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, to the recall petition, I just am wondering if at some point when it's over with, we can get a report on how much the fair had to spend on this thing. I mean, volunteer time, tracking volunteer time, a special mailing to all the members, whatever lawyer consultant fees we've had to pay. It's just really heartbreaking that we're probably, I mean, I'm guessing $15,000 or more to do this. And it's just really, really heartbreaking that this is where some members have forced the hand of the fair to pay this bill on whatever it is they're doing, because it just seems like a really nasty waste of resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Peaches. And I see a hand here from Diane.
Yeah, I just want to say that I really agree that I share that same sentiment that Peaches just did, because not only, of course, there's the money that's going to be spent. And interestingly enough, I got one email today that was signed the management. So I guess our employees are also involved in, I don't know what percentage of their time, but I was so hopeful with the new board that we were going to finally start moving forward. And so I'm just saying at this point, I'm sad about it. Oh, is somebody speaking on my turn?
Before we got
I'm absolutely
a
shocked.
speaker.
Reese, your microphone's open.
Anything that
Well, I think I've said enough. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that, Diane.
That's the way it's been going.
Also, Kirsten, if you could make me a co-organizer so that I can mute people, I can help with that stuff. I see a hand from Spirit.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. I just want to remind everybody that this too shall pass. And to some degree, this is the cost of, I don't want to say doing business, but the reality is that this is a legal right that members of this organization and every nonprofit organization have. And in exercising that, I hope that we can keep it not personalized, and adjectives like nasty, things like that are making an assumption that people are not able to be exercising their right for the reasons that they believe. And I'm going to leave it there because we have an informational meeting coming up, and I believe that's the place to discuss the removal petition. Thank you.
Thank you. The next step is Percy.
Yes, my feeling is it's sad. It's sad that we have to get to a point where this happens, but at the same time, it's my understanding that over 100 members have signed a petition or somehow asked to have this happen. Well, 100 members, that means something. There's a reason why 100 members feel that way, or more than 100. And I'm not taking a side right now. I'm going to wait to see how the January 21st session goes. But I honor the fact that more than 100 people are willing to say, hey, let's do something. And then we can get together on the 21st and we can talk it over. We can get the facts out and each person can then decide. And when I get my ballot, I'll mark it according to what I honestly feel. And I think that's a wonderful thing for the fair to do. It's democracy in action. And it's done, I believe, with good intent. There are people who feel the need for this. And if they win, then that happens. And if they don't win, then they come back into the fold and we continue to be the same as we were before. I think it's really just a very ordinary situation, and I hope we wouldn't make too much of it as far as who's hating on who or who's doing this and that. Let's just let it unfold and make the best choices we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Percy. I see a hand from Aaron and Firecat. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I want to thank Stephen Dyercott for getting the forum set up, because we were all trying to figure out how we're going to talk about this in a reasonable way. And I'm just really glad that you set that up so that there can be communication amongst the membership. I think the informational meeting is going to be very important to also inform people, or so people can hear what the situation is. I believe that the right to petition in our bylaws is an incredibly important right. And so I believe that the fair can afford to take on a matter that is so important in our bylaws. Yes, it will cost a little bit of money, but probably not as much as everyone thinks, because we do have a lot of volunteers. So anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing the conversations in the forum, and I hope that everybody gets out and votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other hands? All right. We will move on to staff reports.
Thank you, Al. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening. My management report starts with the financials. Crew budgets are being reviewed by the Budget Committee this month. Capital improvement requests will be reviewed by the Budget Committee in February and presented to the board at the March board meeting. We are working on quotes for the SVOG program specific audit that must take place by December 2023 and our 2022 financial review and 990s. We anticipate using the same CPA firm to do all three of these projects for us. There is a coordinator budget meeting scheduled for Sunday, January 22nd, 2023, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. via Zoom. An email invite has been sent to the coordinators. Another will go out a week before and one the day of. Culture Jam, we will begin the interview process for the Culture Jam program director position this week. We anticipate the position to be filled in early February. To remind everybody, the Culture Jam dates will be August 4th through August 11th, 2023 at Alice's. Guideline changes, which is a new business topic today on the agenda and will be voted on by the board on February 6th. The application window closed on December 15th. The guideline change proposals are on the .net site under Board of Directors / Board Working Documents, and also under the link just Documents. The board received them in this month's packet and will vote to approve them at the February board meeting. Once approved, the guidelines will go through a final edit and be sent to the printers in early March. Fair Care, the Fair Care has now met with the backup managers, board, and membership on the draft Progressive Solutions policy. We anticipate having the draft policy ready for the board to approve in March of 2023. Hybrid meetings, per a board motion, I am reporting back that we are still looking at locations for hybrid board meetings. We are trying to find some free locations, but have found a couple that have the technology we need at a very low cost. I anticipate having 2 to 3 locations at the February board meeting for the board to consider. The Northwest Youth Corps is what's kind of holding us up. We've held board meetings there before. They're not quite fully open yet, and they are improving their technology. So if they get the technology that we need to have hybrid meetings, they are a major contender for our hybrid board meetings. But that one piece is holding us up because they haven't really fully opened yet, and we're waiting. They think it'll be February. So we're crossing our fingers that they will be one of the recommended options for our hybrid meetings. Administration, we are working on 2023 contracts. The second coordinators DEI workshop will be held next Tuesday, January 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. via Zoom. The first one was very well received. We held a focus group meeting with 11 coordinators on November 30th. This was to help develop content for the next meeting based on the needs and interests of the coordinators. Projects, entertainment applications are up on the .org site and will close on February 15th, 2023. Craft applications are on the .org site and will close in April of 2023. Food booth applications are on the .org site and will close on January 20th, 2023. The poster artist 2024 application deadline is January 15th, 2023. The spring fling is planning is underway. We have secured the WOW Hall for May 6th, 2023. We anticipate revealing the 2023 poster art at this event. There will also be a fundraiser for Culture Jam at the event. Additionally, I wanted to let the board membership know that we were granted another 10-year trademark on our peach logo. We are trademarked through September 14th of 2032. So I just received a notification today that we were granted the extension of our trademark for the peach logo. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much. Next up is the treasurer's report.
And I'll do it as Linda is still in Costa Rica. And last I saw on Facebook, a flight got changed and she's there an extra day at least. So I hope she's enjoying it. As Kirsten said, the budget committee is meeting now, and that's really our biggest news. And we're doing a lot of work in January, and that's possible because of the work that the coordinators and staff did to give us good budget information and background and requests. And we are working with that. So, as we've talked about before, it's a little bit of a change in our method. And so we're all trying out something new and seeing how it goes. And just want to give big thanks. I'm just awed again and again at our volunteers and our staff, the budget committee, and the amount of detailed work that we do and the level of accountability that people hold each other to. So big thanks. And you'll hear a lot more about the budget in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Hillary. Next is committee work group reports. Now, my understanding, those get emailed and then put up on the website at this point. I see some heads nodding. So we will move on to old business. There's only one thing on there.
Yes, 2 board members and the president, or 5 board members. And it's really intended to kind of to have folks be able to kind of share ideas prior to bringing a motion forward. We're trying to get into a rhythm of being able to do the board's work and talk about things and then create a motion.
Do you have any follow-up?
Yeah, I put my hand back out because we don't usually directly dialogue. So I guess my question then is, how can the board discuss a motion except in a public meeting? Because the rules are that they need to be discussed in public meetings. So I'm trying to figure out how that's going to work.
So just for the new guy here, can we sorry, Aaron.
I'm same place here at this moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so is this just a time where members can ask their questions with no response and then?
Yes.
I think that's the case. I think I blew it.
Okay. Sorry about that. I will let the membership speak and then board will speak after. Peaches, you're next.
Yeah, hi. I'm just kind of, I guess I would like just a little bit more context about this and like what the issue, what problem is it trying to solve? And, to Aaron's point as well, when it's time for the board to speak, if you could speak to, how this works, because the business of the board is supposed to be done in public meetings. And so, but more so, I'm just trying to figure out why now, what problem are we fixing, and have a little more context when it's board time to speak, I guess. Thanks.
Thank you. And Jonathan.
Yes, well, I'm a little bit concerned about the necessity of having the chair approve a new business item, or anybody other than the board member making the motion. We elect individuals to the board and they bring issues, and while we like to think that this is all going to be fair, I've seen many circumstances where a lot of issues would not be brought before the board that certain segments of the membership might like to be brought. I really appreciate the advance notice aspect of it, and I think it's really important that that advance notice include the membership on the same timeline. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Spirit, and then LT, I see your hand as well.
Yeah, this just seems one more step towards a better process at board meetings and maintaining business of the board. I know that if I understand correctly, what I'm hearing is that before it goes up as new business, it will be discussed with the president and 2 members or 5, and that there'll still be that month that the membership has notice to and be able to give input at the next meeting. So that's my understanding. This way, I believe that the president just has can kind of help navigate so that the agenda doesn't become tit for tat or things that aren't important, or I don't want to say not important, but maybe not. I mean, I've seen motions where there's kind of poking at each other from different members, and hopefully that this is just one of those things that helps eliminate that. I just think it's cleaning up the process, and I support it.
Thank you, Spirit. LT? CLT is trying to connect to audio. Oh. Can you try now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello. Good evening, Pura Vida. I am concerned. I recognize the formula, 2 members and a president or 5 members is already the procedure, but I would suggest this is not a great idea for controlling the agenda, because what it does is it short circuits and prevents a deliberative process. The purpose of an open meeting and the engagement in a deliberative process is to quite often to convince persons who are either opposed or uncommitted to commit to a particular motion. And I have confidence in the deliberative capacities of our board to listen carefully to the arguments made, to the input of the members, and to make a decision. And if there are frivolous or vexatious motions made, I am confident in the capacity of the board, if they even second such motions, to call questions, to cut short the deliberation if deliberation is inappropriate. So again, I think this undemocratizes our process to a considerable degree, and it's just not, it's neither necessary nor a good idea. So I urge this board to reject this proposal.
Thanks, LT. Any other hands? All right, we'll move to board discussion. Arna.
Well, I seconded this motion because I like it. I like the fact that it does take 2 board members and the president to put a motion on the table. If you can't get a second person to okay a motion with you, then your motion really shouldn't even be on the table. I see the president here really okaying pretty much most motions, other than motions that are really ridiculous, totally divisive, motions that aren't going anywhere. I think the previous way of doing it, I would see people put placeholder motions on the agenda, and they would just sit there for months, just being these placeholder motions, what I think was ridiculous. I would see people just throwing out motions, that just were one person motions. And they would waste the board's time, I thought, discussing motions that really just didn't have support. I think it's important that we, work together on this stuff. I think by having, if I want to put a motion together and I can't get one person on the board to support me in this motion and bring it to the president, then this motion's not going anywhere, and it shouldn't even be brought to the floor. I think if we end up with a president who is controlling this, we have a way around it with 5 board members, being able to circumvent that. 5 board members. So, it's less than half of the board would have to come together and say, we want this motion and we don't care what the president says. And LT was right. That comes from the bylaws and calling, I think, special board meetings, that formula. I think this will streamline our process and our board meetings. And I think they'll make them run more smoothly. So I am really in favor of this motion. Thanks.
Thanks, Aaron. Next up is Lisa.
Hi, everyone. So I'm really having trouble understanding, like Peaches said, what problem this motion is trying to solve and how it will actually benefit the organization. I think that as a director, I was elected by the membership to do the work of the organization. And I feel that I ought to be able to place items of new business on the agenda as I see fit as a director of this organization. Also, I think that it would unnecessarily hamper the board from being able to be responsive in a timely fashion to issues and situations that come up. Because I won't be on the board anymore. As a member, I would be very concerned about sort of the consolidation of power here and the way that this could actually cut out the voices of the membership. So I don't support this motion and I will be voting no. Thanks.
Thanks, Lisa. Kirsten?
Thanks, Al. I don't normally address the board in board motions, but I wanted to just clarify a few things. As you probably all remember, at the end of board meetings, we would have a few minutes for people to throw out new business motions. Those motions were not fully formed, and therefore we could not give 30 days of fully formed motions to the membership for their consideration. This does not circumvent the ability of the board to move items from new business to old and vote on them at the current meeting if they find that there is a new business motion that is timely. The impetus for this is to allow the board, the membership, to have 30 days to review fully formed motions before the board acts on them. And what I have seen over the 1.5 years, almost 2 years that I've been here, is that most of our new business motions are not fully formed when they come up under old business. And so I do encourage the board to pass this so that we can make sure that our membership is fully informed about the motions that the board is considering. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is AJ.
See what happens when you have fat fingers, you hit every button, but the right one. Anyways, I just want to acknowledge, I think it has to be said that the way that we've done business, at least over the last 2 years, as far as, submitting new business has not worked. It's been a part of the contention that we've had amongst the board. As somebody who has had several of my motions kind of, I felt bullied by other motions and things like that. I recognize that this process here brings some stability back to how we do business in this organization. And I think as far as to what problem it fixes, I would say it fixes one of the problems of having our board meetings be a place where it feels chaotic, especially to our membership who expects us to behave and act professionally. I believe this lends to that professionalism. And I fully support this motion. It does exactly what our executive director just said. It allows the membership itself to have fully formed motions for their input going into a meeting for 30 days. It also acknowledges that in order for someone to create a motion, we are already talking to each other. Whenever I've ever created a motion or thought of a motion, I'm in contact with other board members trying to get their support, getting help with how to write it. It encourages that. And that's a good thing for us to start working together. The membership voted and wanted us to start working together as a team better. They've said that in the last election and the election before. This is a process that gets us back to working together and providing the membership with information that's well thought out. And that's all I would say about that.
Thanks, AJ. Sandra?
Yes, I think you said that well, AJ. You know, the board has a limited amount of time in which to do the work of the board. And I know we all, and I think making sure that a motion, some kind of policy proposal has a certain amount of support before it takes up valuable board time and is well thought out is important. And it is, I do agree that it starts to create an atmosphere where the board members, that we as a board work with each other in developing these policies. So I think it's a very positive approach. And I think it's going to help to even out the organization. We've had a lot of problems with dissension and lots of difficulties, and we need to work on that. And I think this is a big step forward in trying to make this a high functioning organization. So I really appreciate this. I think that, you know, if you can't get, and I think this will help eliminate what I call the vanity motions, you know, and, you know, will help us organize our workload. So I hope that you vote for it. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other hands? Any further discussion? I briefly saw a hand.
John Alexander's got his hand up.
Got it.
And that's
John.
me. Yeah, real quick, I've got a process question. I appreciate Tom wanting to jump in and answer those questions as they were coming in. And so my process question is that, and this is again, this motion is coming from questions about process, right? So my first process question is in a discussion like this, when we had some good questions that were asked by the membership, I'm kind of holding out because I want to hear what the answers are to the questions by the membership before I even provide my input, my opinion as a board member, because I thought that those were really good questions. So I'm not quite sure how Tom does that. I know Tom's probably now trying to be respectful and wait and maybe come in and answer those questions afterward. But I think that those questions are important. And if I heard them right, I think it was, one of the questions, and I think this was asked the time before, is what's the process for members suggesting new business? And then also, how are these motions discussed in transparency, given the nature of the way this board runs? So I kind of need to hear those answers. And I could come up with them, but it's not my place because it's not my motion. I will go ahead and provide my input. about the problem that's happening. And I think I'm not going to repeat what other people said, but I think what was happening to some, at least to me as a new board member, is that we really came out of the retreat with some priorities and some issues that needed to be addressed. And then immediately coming into old business that we hadn't even seen. And then all of a sudden, a bunch more new business got loaded on top of that, which could have potentially gotten in the way of the priorities that we had put forth to try to kind of slow things down a little bit and take care of some of the big problems and address what somebody had mentioned, which is that we're really trying to come together in a more collective and collaborative way as a board, and that is our intention. And so lastly, the motions thrown on top of motions and motions put as new business in response to old business motions being discussed and things like that started to get overwhelming. And so whatever the solution to the problem is, from my perspective, I'm not sure if even the way a board meeting is run needs to be passed by motion, or whether that's the president's prerogative, as long as we're doing things transparently and listening to our membership. But I do think listening to the membership is important. So get back to this process question. When members have questions, I think we need to get them answered. And sometimes in our process alone, the membership questions get lost because we're not responding to them, and we are trying to develop another aspect of an agenda to make sure that next month we address all of the valid questions that the membership brings us in the previous question.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Paxton, you're next.
Trying to find the unmute button. To answer one of those questions, a member comes up and has a suggestion, they just find a board member to talk, because it's board members that have to make motions. So I don't see a problem with having to talk with several board members rather than just one, and that might be sensible. I kind of feel it concentrates too much power in the president. In the past, we've made these agreements at our board retreat. Our last few board retreats, we have not had time to work together and define how we do our meetings, how we do our meeting process, how we do our motion process. These are all things we've ironed out in the past, from decades in the past, in reality. So I agree that this is a problematic time, and we're looking to try and figure out how to make people to work more together. I think it adds some of the bureaucracy to it, but that I'm actually willing to try it. I think we definitely need more communication amongst the board members when we're starting motions. Most of mine have actually come out of committee work. The committee makes a recommendation, then I bring it to the board and put it on the agenda, that kind of thing, as board liaison. I'm not exactly sure how that would work, having to add extra members to take it to the president and stuff. I think it can be done. I think it's adds more work in reality. But in interest of working together, I'm willing to try it. Let's say that. But I have some real concerns about changing the process that we've done. I think it makes it more difficult. Thank you.
Thanks, Paxton. Stephen Dyerkoff.
I just want to address John Alexander's question about how members bring topics to the board. Our bylaws have a provision for that. I believe it's Article 5, Section 6, subsection 3. I'm pretty sure that's it. I'm not positive, but what it essentially says is that members may petition the board in writing. They may write the board, not a formal petition, but they may ask questions of the board in writing. And if a member wishes to speak before the board, the member can schedule that with the secretary. And if they make that request, the secretary needs to put it in the board, I believe within 2 months, needs to bring it to a board meeting. So we do have a mechanism for members to bring issues to the board that way. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Sue.
I am a bit uneasy with this motion. Part of it has to do with the not too distant past when special meetings, etc., were called. And it takes X number of board members to do this with the president. I was rarely ever tagged in any of those. I know there were a few other board members who were very rarely tagged in those. And Tom, this is not a personal thing at all, but if this gets passed, I would want you to make sure that you do a good rotation to include all the board members. I'm still not sure how I'm going to vote on this, but I had to speak up before we get there. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Back to you, Arna.
I just wanted to take a moment to respond to some of the comments that the board members have made. Paxton, you were saying that you talked about, meeting process and stuff at the retreats in other years, but we haven't had time to do that. Well, I'm actually glad that we're talking about this in an open meeting. I think it's good that the membership gets to have some, input on this. They get to watch us talk about it and work. It's more transparent. And I'm really into being more transparent with the membership. And I think this is the kind of discussion we should be having in an open meeting. We could change other things in our meetings. The part about dialoguing when members ask questions, that's something we can change. I mean, we can change our meeting process and how we set it up anytime we want to. And that's something that can come up for discussion among us, and I've always, that dialoguing thing and not being able to, the membership to ask questions to the board and have them answer it, that's always kind of bothered me when I was a member and wanted to have, my questions answered by board members. So I'd love to see us discuss that and maybe change that little unspoken rule that we have or whatever. And then Paxton, you were talking about how, you bring up things as a liaison to committees. That's when you bring up motions. And it might be a little more work, but I don't think it would be much more work for you. I mean, if you came to me with a motion that came out of a committee meeting and you brought it as liaison to the committee, certainly I'd have no problem with, being your second person on a motion like that. I would trust that that was what came out of the committee and that needed to be brought to the board. I think that's something pretty simple and most board members would be fine with that. And in this, somebody had asked about, are board members talking secretly or something? Well, of course, board members are talking, not secretly, but it's not like, it's not like we only talk for 2 hours a month at a board meeting. We do talk to each other, outside of board meetings. It's not like we have meetings outside of board meetings, but we do communicate with each other. There's no way to do all the work of the board without, talking sometimes. And so I don't see anything wrong with that. We cannot do everything at just a 2-hour board meeting. And I think Peaches is the one who had asked that. And I think Peaches, you should know that. You were on the board. Board members talk to each other. And we have to communicate in order to collaborate on things. You can't just have one person at a board meeting come and say, I want to bring this motion and nobody's ever even heard of it. It would just never work. We'd never get anything done. This is a way for us to continue collaborating and working on motions together and making a smoother board meeting. As AJ pointed out, and Kirsten pointed out, this is a way for the membership to get the motions a month in advance. They actually get more information. I really don't see the problem with this. I don't think it's undemocratic. I guess that's it. I could probably go on and on, but I won't.
Thanks, Arna. Sandra.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a minute and respond to Sue on this because this approach to bringing a policy proposal to the table, it isn't the president who finds the second person. it's the maker who's proposing the policy. So it would be another board member who would be looking for that second vote of support, or it would still be, and if the board president didn't like it, or or didn't want to move it forward, or maybe thought it should be done later, or whatever he thought or she thought, then the other option is to find 5 board members. And so it would still be board member to board member. That's where all the action would be on that. And so it isn't controlled by the president. It's kind of a there's kind of a clearinghouse there. So I just wanted to clear that part up because that seemed to be an issue for you.
Thanks. Ann?
Yeah, I can see all these different perspectives, and to address, is this turning into board secret stuff? We already do talk at committee meetings, we talk to each other. And I do see the need for more communication on board motions. For the last number of years, I've watched as these motions kept going on forever in various iterations, and it was like person A had never heard of what person B was presenting. And it is also, if we weren't doing Zoom meetings and where the board president kept everything at 2 hours, bam, or a 10-minute extension, we had meetings in person that would go till midnight and stuff as we worked through this stuff. My last concern is how minority opinions would be communicated to the board and through board motions. And I think that's partly what Lisa was talking about. I'm not sure. And because sometimes the minority opinions might be the way we should go. Anyway, thank you. I'm done.
Thanks, Ann. Kevin?
Yeah, I want to say thank you to everyone for all your amazing opinions. It really helps to hear all these different perspectives. And I appreciate the collaborative perspective of this motion. I think that, a part of getting us all to work together and communicate makes us stronger, makes us more, all the more unified, as well. If, I think with the collaborative piece, if I have to find someone to support me with emotion, their opinion could help me with my emotion. Maybe I have a motion of, whatever, I want to get my name on a bench. And so if I just want to say it that way, and, I go to Sue, and Sue's like, no, you should do it this way. If you want to do it, I can help you. I think in essence, that is the idea of this as well. I really enjoy the piece of getting things out there to the membership early. 30 days to look at a fully fleshed out motion and allow them to, do their research and think about their questions and things like that, as well as other board members to do the same. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's something that works as well. To speak to Paxton, we should definitely give it a try, and we will know what that looks like as it's happening. And there's nothing, like Arna says, that we can say that we can just change that up. If we say, okay, let's tweak it here and tweak it there and do this, we can do that. But I think, like AJ was saying, doing the same old thing may not be in our best interest. So I'm excited to try this new idea. Hopefully it works out. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Kevin. Next up is Lisa. You with us, Lisa? I can't hear you if you're speaking.
You're muted, Lisa.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to find my mute button. I'm doing this on my phone. So can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right. Hey, so I appreciate the spirit of behind the motion, to bring more order to the meetings, to enhance collaboration among the board. But I kind of find it a little ironic that this motion, because this motion was not brought forward in a collaborative manner. And also, I think that, none of my concerns as far as essentially it vests veto power in the president. And that concerns me. And I just haven't heard that addressed adequately. Yeah, I'm not ready to vote yes on this. Sorry.
Thanks, AJ.
Yeah. So I want to acknowledge that, first of all, this motion was formed collaboratively. There were more than a few people that had input on this motion, and this is an example of how this would work. Not everybody, because if we wouldn't be doing business in front of the membership if every board member participated in the formation of every motion before it came to the membership. Part of us is we're doing the work in front of the membership right now. And there was collaboration on this motion. The second thing I would say is I want to remind, while it's an instinct to go negative, and I know I fight that instinct sometimes. One of the things that I find most powerful about this is when I can collaborate with someone who most people would consider who has a different opinion than mine. So if I brought a motion to the table with someone who I've been in conflict with, or may have in the past seen things different than I, and both of us bring that motion to or three of us bring that motion up, that is a more powerful statement, not only to our membership, but to the power of the motion being put up. It forces us as board members to do our work, do our homework, do the work of collaborating with someone else. That is, I think that is an expectation of our membership, is to not continue to see us just fighting, but to get us to work together. I said it before. I do see and recognize hesitation for the president making a decision if two board members came to the president with a formal motion and the president then said no. I don't imagine that would happen, but I do recognize that that for some of us that might be an interesting, that's a lot of trust. And I think the number of 5 board members may be, it's interesting to me. So with that said, I would like to present a friendly amendment to this motion that just says 4 board members can bring, any 4 board members can bring a motion to the board and put it on new business. But that eliminates any quote veto power. It takes the president, it takes that idea or I think that works better. It puts us in a position where board members have to work with board members. I'd like to present that as a friendly amendment.
process clarification here. Do you have more discussion? Do we switch? I believe, I've seen this maybe in your recordings. You switch to a discussion on the amendment.
First, Tom has to accept the friendly amendment.
Okay, thanks.
I accept that friendly amendment.
Okay, then we will discuss the friendly amendment.
I believe I have to accept the friendly amendment.
Oh,
So
yes,
as a second,
seconded.
I just want to, can I ask a question? I want to clarify it. So AJ, you just say we're going to get rid of the 2-person and the president and the 5 people and just have 4 people.
Correct.
Yeah, I'll accept that.
Thank you. We will have discussion on this topic or this item with the friendly amendment included now. John Alexander. Oh,
great.
sorry. I
So
don't
we're discussing now the whole motion as amended. Okay, right? No, just the amendment. Just the amendment.
I'm going to talk about the amendment.
Just the amendment. Okay, so that's great. So one thing I think that's important and one of
Hold
the
on,
concerns.
process check. Can we please read what the motion would say?
Sure.
And may I ask if George Braddock was acknowledged? I saw his hand up.
Sorry, yes, I do have George and Paxton here ahead of you, John. Sorry. That big hand just always grabs my attention so well. So can we read it out? I don't have the original in front of me. I just have this friendly amendment.
I can read the original, and then if you want to read the friendly amendment, that might be a good idea. So I can get the original, which is the board moves to require all new business motions to be submitted to the board president in writing 2 weeks prior to the next board meeting. New business motions must be proposed by the board president plus 2 members or 5 board members.
The only change to this would be that last part. And if you read that last part, it will be submitted by 4 board members.
Okay, my stack is currently George Paxton, John Alexander, in that order. So, George?
I had my hand up before the amendment to the motion, so I'm going to speak to that, what I was prepared to talk about. Yeah, I think change is always a little uneasy, and there's going to be questions that are going to arise, and things will get worked out. I kind of lean toward Paxton's perspective on this, which says we've had these stumbling blocks, some of the meetings, amendments on top of amendments on top of amendments, and you can't even, at the end of the day, you're trying to vote on something that's been all patched together 5 different ways. If things come up out of nowhere for us to deal with, and I think that this is a system to really rectify that in a lot of ways. One of my concerns is that we may not be able to do sort of simple amendments, so it might mean that a motion might have to go to the next month rather than trying to. Because oftentimes it feels like we're trying to make amendments on the fly, on top of amendments, on top of amendments. And that, I think, is something we're really trying to get away from. It takes a lot of time, and we end up rehashing the same thing, over and over again. So, are there, wrinkles that have to be figured out here? Yes, there are. But I think the principle of it is really good. I think it would make things move more smoothly. I'm in support of, giving this a try. If it goes sideways, we can change it back the way it was.
Thanks, George. Appreciate your input. Paxton?
Yeah, I think we ought to review this, at our next board retreat in the normal process where we talk about board process. I'm game to try the original motion. Changing the 5 to 4, I am not in favor of, and that would, and so I will probably vote against the amendment. There's a reason that we have the president and 2 members and or 5 board members. And it's based on the bylaws. And I would rather just stick with what is our official process. Thank you.
All right. And John Alexander.
Yeah, I Zoom a lot, so sorry about that hand. That's a bad habit. So yeah, really appreciate this. There's a lot of process stuff being asked in the chat, which I think is important. I'm going to try to be quick. One of the things that I think is something we want to consider as we collaboratively work on motions is that one process is friendly amending a motion and then it continues to go. Another one is if we, why don't we, consider a different motion, right? As opposed to that. So that's something I think, again, is another thing like Pax is talking about is process, because we do get muddled in this amendment after amendment. And then what are we discussing and all of that other kind of things. I do want to mention that I do like the collaborative nature of this. And, I was really trying to bring up some questions that I'm hearing from the membership, and I'll own those questions myself. That's fine. If a member comes to me and asks me to carry a motion and I'm in support of that motion, I think it should be my responsibility to go get more board members to do that, not put that on the member to go, get enough board members to bring a motion forward. As soon as you get somebody in support of your motion, then we as your representative should carry that and not put that on you, in my opinion. And lastly, with regards to what I think was being meant by what about the minority, or with regards to bringing motions and not having them get through, I think we should have a process for propose, I don't know what it is, but propose motions that don't get accepted. So the membership can see those, I'm not sure how that would roll, whether that would be, who would do that. But I do think it's important. So people who are trying to bring in good ideas, but just aren't, aren't in the right place, even though they might be right ideas, at least those are getting put out there in public if they want them, if the person who was trying to bring a motion forward wants the membership to see that motion. I think that's it. Thank you. And one last thing. I'm assuming from AJ's clarification that we're saying it's either 2 board members and Prez, or 4 board members, right?
May I answer?
Please.
No, that is not. It was a total of 4 board members, erasing the 2 board members and the president and the 5 members. It was just a total of 4 board members can agree. And yeah.
Okay, so then I just, with that clarification, thank you very much, AJ. I think that actually makes the process more arduous, and it could be harder to get some controversial things on the table for discussion. Sometimes bad ideas make for good discussion, and make for good decision making. So I'm a little concerned about that's more restrictive, not less restrictive than what we had before.
I see a hand from a member, but my understanding is that this is a time for the board to discuss things, and there's no membership comments at this time. So I'm going to stick to that unless I'm told otherwise. Are there any, Arna?
I do have a quick process question here. So we accepted this friendly amendment. So when we go to vote, we'll be voting on that motion. If that motion fails, can we go back to our original motion and vote on it?
Do I get to make that decision?
It's kind of a process question to the facilitator, I think.
So
Chris is nodding yes, I see.
Where to begin? I think that I'm unfamiliar with the way that you use the word friendly amendment. My understanding of the word friendly amendment would be not changing the agenda item at all, except for clarifying. So for me, this would be not a friend. I mean, and I'm not saying it's unfriendly. in the term you might be thinking of it, but my understanding would be that this is an amendment. And the process there would be to first vote on whether or not to accept it and change the item. And if that fails, then to go back to the original one and vote on that.
See, I know I'm dialoguing with you. But
I love to talk about this, so
I'm reading this from everybody. All these people chiming in, I see on this.
For sure. Sandra, do you want to? Yeah, I see your hand.
Sandra.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said something. A friendly amendment is, I think it permanently changes the amendment. And so you either have to pass it or not pass it, and then you could reintroduce the original motion and then vote on that. That would be, I think, the correct way to handle a friendly amendment.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say as well. I think we're on the same page.
Thank you.
Did you miss my hand there?
I'm seeing it now here, AJ, and I wasn't sure if it was something you'd already gotten in there or not. So
Point of order.
Oh.
There are people who are dialoguing in the chat box, which makes it very difficult to follow.
Yeah,
So-
for sure. I can address that. Jay, I believe that you're welcome to chat about this stuff in the YouTube live stream, but this chat is solely for my facilitation purposes, as I understand it. AJ.
Yes, I'd like to call the question.
Okay. I'm not seeing further discussion. So first we will vote. And I know this seems really late in the game to ask what your policies are on how many need to vote yes for this to get approved, but 8. I'm counting 8 fingers. All right.
Yes.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Even though we're down one director? Is it still 8? It gets complicated, that calculation.
percentage or-
I don't know.
2/3. We need 2/3.
2/3.
So when we have 11.
Got it. Okay. So Tom, can you restate it? Can you read it aloud here?
Yeah, the original motion.
Sure, and I
Okay.
can add an amendment.
Wonderful.
No,
Okay.
we need to hear the motion that we're voting on. So it needs to be the motion
as amended.
I think I can take a shot at the amended motion too, because I have the first part of the language. So the board moved. Oh,
Just
pardon.
one more second. I think we only need 7 votes.
Okay.
Just to clear that part up. Okay, sorry about that.
Perfect. Okay, the board moves to require all new business motions be submitted to the board president in writing 2 weeks prior to the next board meeting. New business motions must be proposed by 4 board members. Correct, AJ?
Sounds good. This is the current topic that we're voting on. I will go down the list, starting with Sandra.
Oh, wait 1 second. I apologize. Take a look at the chat because there's a question about process here again with regards to calling the question. And I apologize, but I'm
Point
seeing
of
that.
order, people are not allowed to dialogue in the chat box.
I believe it's, yes, I agree.
But we should be paying attention to Stephen's, our
Right.
secretary's note there.
Well, that is rounded down to 7. 7.333 is 7. It's rounded up.
Sounds like it's rounded up, so it's still.
No.
Right. Okay. My understanding is that you need 8. And that's where we're at. Okay. Sandra, your vote?
I'm going to vote yes.
Anne,
No,
Arna,
I'm gonna vote no on this one, actually.
John Alexander,
No.
George,
No,
Paxton,
No,
Tom,
Yes.
Kevin,
I'm gonna go no on this one.
AJ,
Yes.
Sue,
No,
John Silverman is absent, and Lisa.
No,
All right, that does not carry. So we move back to the original agenda item, the proposal.
How would you like me to read that, the original one?
the original.
Okay.
Go ahead and read it out, and then we'll have further board discussion.
Sounds good. The board moves to require all new business motions be submitted to the board president in writing 2 weeks prior to the next board meeting. New business motions must be proposed by the board president plus 2 board members or 5 board members.
Thanks. John Alexander, you're first.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. You answered my question by going back to voting on the first motion. Thank you.
All right. Is there any further discussion? All right, I'm going to call the vote on
I
the original.
do. My finger is slow.
No worries, AJ.
I just wanted to add that during this process tonight, I heard several folks mention a concern about the president being able to make a decision. And I heard concerns about the minority group getting an opinion across or whatever. My friendly amendment, I thought, would help us get to that point where those concerns would be eliminated. I'm kind of I don't understand how that was taken differently, but it is what it is. I think I can I agree with and I'll vote yes on this original motion. I think it's important in these processes as we go forward, when we add an amendment to something, that we try to explain why we did that in a way. And I wanted to be heard, that I was trying to hear the voices that were concerned about it. And that's why I proposed the friendly amendment. And so I understand now that those voices didn't think that was the best way to fix that. Understand and take it. And yeah, just wanted to share that.
Thanks, AJ. Any other discussion? All right, we'll call the question. Does anybody need to hear it one more time? All right. Sandra?
I'm a yes.
Anne?
I'm a yes. I'll give it a try.
Arna?
Yes.
John Alexander?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Paxton?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
AJ?
Yes.
Sue?
I'm going to have to abstain.
John Silvermoon is absent. And Lisa?
Abstain.
All right. I'm counting, and I think that's still good.
Yeah, it's going to pass.
That is approved. That is the end of old business. I just want to say I'm really impressed with the way you all handled that. I thought you all expressed yourselves very well. Well done. Kevin, are you throwing in a late hand?
I just wanted to say, Al, that I was impressed with how you handled it as well. So we appreciate you, Mr. Facilitator. You're doing great with us, running around and so wrangling the cats. So thanks, man. You rock.
It'll only get smoother. Next is new business. First one is guidelines changes with Tom.
Just a note, really, that on there will be some guideline changes that will be on the .NET site for review by the membership, and we will vote on those February 6th. So just wanted to give the membership a heads up to look on the .NET site and look for guideline changes.
Thanks, Tom. Declaration of potential conflict of interest. AJ?
Yes, that motion will be up for the next meeting. The content of that motion will be up on the website as well, I believe.
All right. And revenue projections 2023, as stated earlier, will be for not the next board meeting, but a different meeting on
January 30th, board budget meeting.
Thank you. All right. Next up is an evaluation of this meeting. Hand from Stephen.
Hi, I'm really sorry. I hope this isn't too out of order, but I have another brief announcement to make, if I may. A large number of people have been signing up for our new forum, and they have Gmail addresses. We are having a problem delivering emails to Gmail addresses. I've been looking at the logs during the meeting. So if you signed up tonight, we will not be able to send you confirmation emails. Just check after 48 hours and see if your account is active. Thanks. And I'm sorry to get out of order, but I wanted to get that out there now.
Thank you, Stephen. LT. All right, your audio's in, but you're muted.
There we go. Hi. Yeah, my apologies for the late contribution on the issues of process, but two important, really, I thought, significant deviations from ordinary process. The first is that a motion to call the question is a motion, which requires a second. It's no discussion is permitted, but it requires an immediate vote on the motion. If the practice that were employed tonight were the rule, then any member of the board could could curtail discussion at any time. That's clearly not the practice. It's never been the practice, and it's not consistent with the rules of order. So I wanted to point that out. The second is this. A friendly amendment, which is a kind of a peculiar creature to the fair, is actually a suggestion by one board member or maybe more that the movant and the second change the motion. It's not technically an amendment. It is a suggestion that the movant change the motion. That motion, if that suggestion, which we call a friendly amendment, is accepted, then that becomes the motion. And so then the vote is on that motion, as we should say, rather changed than amended. And it is not, or never has been, the process to then permit, let us say that the motion as changed is defeated. It's never been the practice to then permit permit the defeated motion to be revived in its earlier form. That's never been done. And the final one is this: it's a 2/3 vote is a matter of simple math, and if the yes votes, it turns out this isn't pertinent, but the question came up. If the no votes are more than 50% of the yes votes, the motion is defeated. That's just simple arithmetic. So that's all I got.
Thanks, LT. Arna?
Yeah, I'm happy that we had this whole discussion in public rather than at a retreat or in a private meeting. But I do think that the board and our facilitator need to have a meeting about the rules of our meetings. We spent a lot of time kind of fussing around with that. None of us really seem to know this. We wasted a lot of time. We spin our wheels. I really think we just need to have a meeting. We need to go over, the Roberts rules that we're going to use, what other little fair rules that we use or not use. And we need to do this soon before our next board meeting if we can. This was a little ridiculous for all of us, but I'm glad we got through it all. So thanks a lot.
For sure. I appreciate all the feedback, and I do know my Roberts rules, but every organization does it differently.
Well, and that is part of the problem. The fair does things differently, but we all need to agree on how we're going to do it. And you need to understand, you need to understand how we're going to do it. And we need to understand how we're going to do it. So that's what we need to talk about.
Paxton, you're next.
I agree that we need to agree with what process we're going to use. Robert's Rules of Order has always been problematic in our organization. The motion to call the question has always been problematic in our organization, has never been followed or rarely been followed correctly. However, again, to reiterate, we always in the past, I've been on the board off and on for probably over 3 decades. And we have always agreed on meeting process at the very beginning of our board retreat. And I think it's one of the most valuable discussions because it's how we agree to work together. I'm not really sure that it needs to involve the membership. We're doing our job and we're trying to figure out how to do our job. And that's really fallen by the side in the last few years. So I really hope we normally we would take a half an hour to 45 minutes and iron all of these things out. It's that simple. So I'm game to have another meeting, but there again, if we need to discuss this somehow, but it's more difficult. It's easier to do it at the retreat. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paxton. John Alexander.
Yeah, thanks to everybody. And Al, thank you. I appreciate that you do know a set of rules, and I understand how it might be difficult to say, well, we do that, but kind of, and other things. So whatever that, Paxton, if there have been great examples of what you came up with at former retreats, maybe we should, as opposed to being all in our heads, that would be great too. But I just, really appreciate it. And I understand everyone's doing their best and well-intentioned, and I thought this discussion was great, but I do really want to recognize Al and thank you for getting through it because simple is sometimes better. So that's another thing that we can talk about as opposed to complicating things. And I think LT kind of addressed this. If the motion's not going to pass, then it doesn't pass and we can bring a new motion forward. Well, I guess I don't know if you could do that or whether that would be new business or not. So, all right, there's a lot of process. Good night, everybody. Happy New Year.
Thanks, everyone. Lisa.
Yeah, so just for transparency's sake and speaking to board members collaborating, the other two vice presidents, myself and the board president, had agreed to meet specifically to discuss Robert's rules and form a loose set of processes for this board to follow, and then bring that to the rest of the board for discussion. That meeting hasn't happened yet, but hopefully it'll happen soon.
Cool. Jonathan Pincus.
Yeah, at this point, I can't remember who said it, but I heard someone say that it's really the board's business how you run your meetings, and that it's you that should be interested in it. I think it's very much the members' business as to how you run your meetings, because it profoundly affects outcomes for the membership.
Thank you. Lucy.
Thank you. I would agree with John that how you run your meetings is your business. However, this severe limitation that is placed on the membership in terms of the amount of time that we are granted to speak or share our opinions about things, given that for the course of a meeting, any one person has 2 minutes to speak, I really think is not favorable to the membership.
Thank you for your input, Lucy. I have, to try to gather what your process is, I have reviewed some of your older meetings, and that's not the first time I've heard that sentiment. Spirit.
Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. I'm going to concur with what Lucy said. I believe when we have a tight agenda and, we're low on time, I can understand placing some time restrictions. However, when we are getting through our meetings in the quick pace that we are, I believe that the membership should be afforded more time to speak and less restriction. Thank you. Thanks for a great meeting, everyone.
Aaron.
I'm having a hard time getting my video. There we go. The time limits on member speaking, as I recall, were set up because we went to the Zoom meetings. We had business to do. Weren't all really good at doing the Zoom meetings. So we had to organize the meetings in such a way so that everybody could speak. But the membership was where we started losing the most ground. And it wasn't supposed to be a permanent situation. And it wasn't supposed to be permanent that the board meetings would only be 2 hours. We were all tired. We were dealing with COVID. There was a lot of concerns in the world at that time. I personally think that it's time to go back to longer board meetings and allowing the membership to speak longer. I was one of the people who was involved in setting up the Zoom meetings for the board when we went that way. And so I was also partially involved in limiting the membership's time, and the intention was never that it was supposed to stay that way, just so you know, at least not on my part. So I think it is time to take a look at this again. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving to the end here. The next board meeting looks to be on Monday, February 6th, 2023, 7 p.m. And we will close with the president's piece.
Thank you, Al. And thanks everybody. I really do hear the comments, and I do want our board to be thinking about how we can be the best democracy that we can be, and do the best work for the membership, and of which my daughters are 2 members, and I do think about their growing up at the fair, and what it will be like 50 years from now. And so I really am committed to figuring out the right process. And there's a lot of new board members, and I thank the membership and folks who commented for their patience. We are learning and growing together and becoming more cohesive. I'll leave you with a quote tonight from John Lennon. We've got this gift of love, but love is like a precious plant. You can't just accept it and leave it in the cupboard, or just think it's going to get by on its own, by itself. You've got to keep watering it. You've got to really look after it, and you've got to nurture it. And I want to think about that with our board, and taking good care of each other, and allowing for dissent and different thinking. So I appreciate everybody, and I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
The bowl?
Oh, do you do it at the end?
Yes, beginning and end. It's the
Hold it
opening
down,
and
come on.
closing.
Oh, let's see. I don't know how to adjust my mic for this. Does somebody know how?
Just get it close. Just get it close to the.
Get it very close.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, just get it close to the camera.
I think it has to do with my mic being blocking out background sounds, but I'll try.
It could be. Yeah. Yeah. Didn't work.
I saw my
We keep
Visually
trying.
it did.
Next month.
It's in spirit. I felt the vibrations through
All
the
right.
screen.
I can
Exactly.
fix this. I can fix this.
Well said, Kevin. We know it happened.
Yep, you know what happened. Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Good
good
meeting.
night, stay safe. And for anybody who's in California, stay safe. Please stay
Yeah.
safe.
Good night.
Happy full moon. Happy full moon.
Hey, you too,
No.
Pete.
Full moon. Full moon. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, moms. Yeah, moms. Happy full moons.